My name is Amber Cyprin, and I'm your host for this. I'm joined by Alpha 5, the organizer of this wonderful competition, and our special guest commentator for this Link's Awakening DX race we have coming up, Spearster. But first, we have a few announcements. First and foremost, SGDQ 2021 online is July 4th to the 11th. Game submissions are open now and close at the end of today. So that would be 11:59 Eastern Time. So be sure to prep your submissions if you'd like to be a part of SGDQ 2021 from the comfort of your own home. And if you're interested in volunteering for SGDQ 2021 online, submissions for volunteers opened on April 9th and are open until, I lost the date for this, hold on one moment. They are open until the 23rd. Yes, the 23rd, I did it. So if you want to volunteer for SGDQ, go to gamesdonequick.com for more info on those dates, as well as the application to apply to be one of our volunteers. So if you are watching on YouTube, hi! We'd love to have you support our live content. Consider checking us out over on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/GDQ. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you do have Prime Gaming, and you can subscribe to any Twitch channel of your choice every month for free. So please consider using your Prime Gaming account to subscribe to the GDQ Twitch channel. So, Alpha, you've put a lot of time into organizing the competition, and can you tell the lovely people who haven't seen any episodes of this exactly what is Speed Seasons? And, you know, for those who want to watch or maybe want to get into competing, how can they do that?
Yeah, so Speed Seasons is a basically a get yourself speedrunning event that I've put together. Basically every 2 weeks, I announce a game. Then 2 weeks later, you have 2 weeks to learn that game. The category, we're going to showcase for you a race of that, like a run of that game by a qualified runner. We're going to, with a partnership with the Community Spotlight that's also on the GDQ Hotfix next day, we're going to show you a tutorial. And then you have basically 2 weeks to learn that game, and then it all comes together with a race of that game on the Sunday, which for this game is coming up shortly. And basically, everyone races. You earn points. By getting points, you qualify for a playoff bracket. And if you have the most amount of points, the top 8 points will qualify. And if you qualify for playoffs, you win prizes that are being provided by me. It's really that simple at the end of the day. You just race video game, play video game, win prizes from me, and it's a lot of fun. If you want to get involved, there's all the information is at speedseasons.com, and I'm going to make this a note because there is one requirement for playoffs that for everyone in this race mostly isn't a big deal, but for if anybody wants to get involved, it's kind of your last chance this next race coming up. You have to have joined 4 of the races in order to be able to be eligible for playoffs. I'm speaking from experience mainly because I kind of did this back in season 2 where there were more games. Not knowing some games can leave you in a situation where you don't have enough games to play. So there is a requirement. You have to play in 4 games. There are still 4 left, so there's plenty of time to get involved, but I do want to stress that if you are interested in doing it, there's a lot of help on the server and in the Discord server, but everybody is going to... next week is if you want to start, but if you just want to race, you can just join. All the races are public on the Speedruns Live IRC. There's instructions how to set all that up, but yeah, it's a good time, and I recommend everybody who is interested in, you know, maybe not committing super hard to a speed game or just wants to, I guess, dip their toe in speedrunning. It's just 2 weeks of your time, more or less, and I've picked all of these games. You should be able to get a sub-hour run in, you know, a reasonable amount of time within those 2 weeks. So I fully recommend everybody who can get involved. And especially if you haven't done it before. It's a lot of fun, I promise. Absolutely.
Like the races so far, we had Super Mario Brothers 2 was week 1. Week 2 has been was Doom, and the VODs for that should be out on YouTube by now. And now we're getting into Link's Awakening DX, no system transition or wrong warp. And I'm going to go ahead and explain system transition. I'm going to ask our wonderful commentator Spearster to explain what no wrong warps are as well. I've had to repeat no system transition to a lot of people in one of our racers chats over the last 2 weeks. System transition means you can't transition from one submap system to another. An example is you can't go out of bounds in Dungeon 3 to walk into the Dungeon 4 submap. You must enter the correct places from their intended entrance. So that includes dungeons and caverns and everything like that. Walk into the correct entrance. That's all we're asking for you to do. You can go out of bounds, but don't leave the system that you're in. But Spearster, what else about this category? What's wrong warps in this game?
So a warp in this game is basically you enter a doorway, you get teleported to the map of the inside of the house. So a wrong warp is pretty simply just you enter a warp, but you don't go to the intended destination. The most famous example of this in this game that I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with is the doghouse glitch, where you kind of walk into the back of the doghouse and you end up in glitch world. There are other ways to do this, especially with what we allow in this category. So it'll just be making sure that people stay in the proper worlds, and again, you enter a warp, it has to go to where it's supposed to go.
Right, and there's also a lot of different acronyms for different categories. Like the main category, I believe, is no wrong warp out of bounds, or is it no save and quit wrong warp out of bounds? I don't remember which switched to the main category.
Yeah, they're both still main. We did kind of switch the save and quit, the allowing save and quit category to be the forefront of the leaderboards, but. Mm-hmm. And actually, that brings up a good point too. That the other thing that defining system transitions allows this category to do, that we can't do in a category that bans out of bounds, is we're going to be walking over walls, going through solid objects and things like that, where as long as we're within the submap, like Amber explained, it's totally fine in this category.
Yeah, and I actually, one thing I find really interesting about the Link's Awakening and Link's Awakening DX is that there's categories that have different restrictions to allow the categories to meet the same end goal, but the means are completely different.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about this game.
This game is a lot like A Link to the Past, I think, in that there's so many glitches and so many ways to do things that we have to create our own totally arbitrary rules just to create different routes that are fun to play.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the strongest points of getting into this as a speed game. And I think Link's Awakening DX is one of the more accessible 2D Zelda speedruns to get into, because you can pause buffer everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
definitely makes some more difficult looking tricks like bomb triggers. They're actually very easy to execute, which we'll see coming up.
Yeah, I can't bomb trigger very well at all, at least with my current setup for playing this game, but everybody else, you can just buffer every single one of them, so it's not a big deal. I just, lose 40 seconds over a course of a run, but that's on me. I gotta get better. But I'm seeing everybody getting ready, everybody coming up with their fun little file names that I gave them to play the alternate music. We have a lot of people in this race.
We do. How many are we looking at? Because we're showing 8 people, approximately 8 people today, depending on making sure people don't finish at the same time. But we've got our first 4 queued up.
Yeah,
we're looking at 15. At how many?
Yeah, it looks
15.
like yeah, and for some reason, no one from the community wants to play this category.
Well, Teach is here.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah, TJ is here. He's a little good at this game.
Well, and I'm commentating, so I can't play, and that's the only reason.
I'm also same, and but we have a lot of people. I hope Xander is watching. That's all I want to say. I promised him more good stew content, and he just kept getting angrier at me. But
yeah, so we're looking at 15. Hopefully someone else joins while we're waiting, but it looks like we're also waiting on 2 more people to ready up. Yeah. The race should be starting very soon. That said, we have some returning people from previous races in speed seasons playing in this as well. Folks like King Dime, who won Doom last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago. And then we have St. Joe, Piper is involved as well, but won't be on the stream. Stramble, Socrates, Pika Pals, some other names in there. as well. LK returning from Super Mario Brothers 2 to race this game as well. Like, LK's playing on console, I think busted out his Super Game Boy 2.
Yeah, originally had planned to do that, but we informed him that the Super Game Boy 2 will boot this in, it's a black cart game, so it has a Game Boy mode, but the Game Boy mode has some lag issues and some other things, so I think is instead playing on their Game Boy Player, which has its other set of issues in that your D-pad is a GameCube controller. Unless you bought one of the Hori pads that existed back in the day, specifically for the GameCube player, or the Game Boy Player, actually. But
they've actually been making new ones.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, like I've heard from a couple of people that they're actually not that bad. So like if you don't want to shell out like $200+ for a Hori pad like we've done in the past. I know TGH is playing on a Game Boy Advance SP as well. That is sometimes some people's preferred controller, because that is a very clicky D-pad.
Yeah, I just because of my hand size, I would prefer like the original Game Boy Advance because it's a little bit wider, but it's a little bit harder to push all the buttons on that one. But yeah, it's funny thinking that those Game Boys are probably cheaper than an original Hori pad.
Oh yeah, like without a doubt, you can pick up a Game Boy with a broken screen as long as it otherwise functions, and it will work as your controller if you connect it with the correct cable to your GameCube. And if you have like this, you can get like $15 grips on eBay that make it as wide as the original GBA.
Ooh.
So the SP suddenly becomes extremely comfortable by comparison.
I absolutely would play with that. I get a separate SP because I don't want to destroy my the one that looks like an NES is the one I have as a kid.
Oh yeah,
I love that one so much. But yeah,
just like pick up a broken screen one that has all the buttons functioning and can turn on, and connect the cable and the grip, and you're good.
Yeah,
broken ones are great too, because if you actually remove the screen, the Game Boy will last longer because it's not powering the backlight and everything.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd want one of the original models of like the AGS 001, I think, rather than the 101, because the 101 has a backlight you can't turn off.
Well, it would also hurt my soul to see a 101 that's broken.
I didn't even know that they made ones that you couldn't turn the backlight off on.
Yeah, that has an actual, like, the AGS 001s are front lit, and then the AGS 101s are, which were released after the original fat Nintendo DS. Those have a proper backlit panel, but it has a lot of ghosting problems, so the screen quality is fine. It's just, it could be better.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna see. I know a lot of our racers have learned a bunch of safety. One of the reasons I picked this category, despite it being absolutely brutal if you're trying to go as fast as possible, like there are tricks that not even the current world record holder is going to go for because they are just the worst, and he doesn't need that yet. I don't think he's getting there, very close.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think he's gonna skip Facade, so we're actually probably gonna see everybody fight him.
Fight is used in loose quotations, I believe.
I'm pretty sure that's the case in every Zelda game that has Facade. But yeah, this is good. This is probably my favorite 2D Zelda game, just because the movement is one of the most fluids. Like the Oracle's games are good, but I don't like listening to sword slashes to figure out how to go fast, so this is better. That's basically my entire reason for not enjoying those speedruns.
You're right about the movement, and one of the really great things about this game, not just for the glitches, is just the feather and the way you move with the feather. The feather exists in other games like the Oracles or obviously the Link's Awakening remake, but there's something about the way it works in this game that just feels really good to use.
It is. The movement in this game is cozy.
Yeah, and it functions in a very different way than it does in any other appearance. Oracle's being on an entirely different engine, and then the remake on Switch also being an entirely different engine.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because the way the feather works in this game, like mathematically, it's wrong. Like it shouldn't send you flying so far diagonally, but that's part of what makes it so great.
I don't think I'd like this game anywhere near as much if the feather works correctly. I enjoy it just feels so good to jump around and just do whatever. It's just such a good feeling item, and Nintendo, make more of these types of games, please. I love them so much. But I think we're really close.
It's a point that's hard to drive home, especially for everyone watching this race. They're going to see the tricks and they're going to see the locations, but something that brings a lot of people back to this game over and over again is just the way it feels in the moment-to-moment gameplay. Like that's really the selling point for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and I think the feather, I will always joke that they should have never allowed Link to jump, because the feather is one of the things that breaks this game's movement wide open in very unintended ways. One of the most common ways being super jumps, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And since we're going to be seeing a lot of those before the race starts, do either of you want to explain exactly how super jumps work, or like what they are?
Oh yeah, because that saves some time, and now that we actually have time, usually 30 tricks will be done by the time we finish explaining super jumps. So basically, in this game, you can sort of clip into walls a little bit, like up to 3 pixels, I think, just normally just walking around. Anybody can do that. You just walk at the wall. When you're in those walls, if you jump and like hold against it, every wall in a dungeon is basically a cliff face. They, did the replacements of the sprites, and they're like, well, this is the side of a cliff. And when you walk off a cliff, you jump and you ignore all collisions until you land. Basically, by doing the jump and holding that direction, you can just kind of trick the game to thinking that you're up against one of those cliff faces. And then by sword slashing or arrowing away from the wall, or even just holding the buttons in a different fashion with like a spin slash or whatever, you'll just jump and you'll ignore all collision, and you'll skip a bunch of stuff. That's kind of a loose explanation for it. It's really fast. It's pretty easy trick to pull off, but it's very, very nice. And like, there's timings in it to determine how high you go. There's a lot of different variations, but it's a really cool trick. It feels really fun to do.
Yeah. So like Alpha said, you can just clip into things by a couple pixels, but in this game, just those few pixels is enough for Link's tile coordinate to be updated to, instead of being the tile beside the wall, the game now thinks you're on the wall, even though you're only a couple pixels in. And like he said, a wall is a ledge. They're the same thing. It just depends on what side you're on. If you're on the bottom side of a wall, you're pushing against it. If you're on the top side of the wall, you'll jump off. But the game doesn't check to see which side you're on. It only cares about which direction you're facing. So you clip into the wall, it thinks you're touching the wall, and then you just face away from it, and then you get this crazy hop that you shouldn't be able to get from that side. And now Alpha mentioned, you can go through collision in this state, so it puts you in a short no-clip mode that's supposed to end the second you land, which for our purposes is usually enough to hop over a barrier or a key block or a wall. But another trick we're going to see later, called a super swim, is essentially the exact same glitch we're performing, but you do it while you're in water. So you kind of enter this free-falling no-clip state, but because you technically don't ever land because you're in the water, you're just in total free roam, no-clip mode. You can go through walls, you can walk over anything, and we'll see that towards the second half of the run, where things kind of get pretty wild.
Yeah. So if we're all ready, I can start this race up because everybody else is ready. So are we good to go here?
I think we are good to go.
All right. So the race is going to be starting soon. And I'm excited to see everything. It's just starting on the screen. Right now we have TGH, who did learn this category for this race. However, I think has, is it 6 or 7 or 8 world records for Link's Awakening right now? He's a little good
currently in the past. He's had so many world records in this game over the years.
Yeah, but this is the last major category for this game that he hasn't gotten back from that time he took a break, and then a bunch of French runners took all those world records. He's gotten them all back now, but it feels good. You'll be able to see someone who's insanely good at this game run it. We have LK, who dusted off his version that he bought on release day 20 something odd years ago. We have Pika Pals, who ran this game for a little bit, and we have Kinetics, who actually joined specifically for this race, learned the game, saw Speed Seasons, was very happy. And so we're starting off on the beach. We see two different paths. It's really player preference, but if you're lucky, going from the left-hand side is a little bit faster, because if you get a rupee drop, it'll be in your path. We need to get 10 rupees, and as some of our racers will say, this is the hardest part of the run.
It's definitely a very reset-heavy point if you're just going for PB attempts. So all these enemies on the beach have a 50-50 chance of dropping nothing or dropping a rupee. And you'll see them hold out their sword or hold out their shield, because when the rupee lands on the ground, if it hits Link and their shield hitbox, they have two separate hitboxes. If it hits them both at the same time, you'll collect the rupee twice, which greatly speeds up our trip to 10 rupees.
And all of them actually having a 5 rupee beach, which that's curious in a 4-person race. You don't usually see that. TGA's got a ton of rupees early, and I'm just very expected. So now we need to steal. Someone explained how the shopkeeper worked earlier in the server, that there's basically a short cycle and a long cycle, and they sort of like alternate. So you're kind of waiting on one while also waiting on another, and it's very complicated, but the answer is you just get a feel for it and just kind of go. Nobody's doing that complicated of math in their head, I don't believe.
And something else we're seeing is each runner is getting a single set of 10 bombs, and you need 10 rupees to buy it, but they're actually saving and quitting at the exact same time they buy it, but before your wallet has a chance to decrease in value. So they kind of steal the bombs, but the shopkeeper doesn't get mad about it.
And we see TGH slashing a fox, memories of the remake. Don't need to do that in this game, and is torturing our current tech person probably. As you know, we just get the powder. There's a very nice setup for this, which is good. Pika Pals, I think, had a really bad time with the shopkeeper, or maybe purchased 20 bombs, which is why they might be behind.
Also, I want to point out here that you don't usually get 10 rupees on the beach, so that's why we're seeing the runners, you know, lawn mowing to trying to find rupees. LK having a terrible time of luck trying to just get rupee drops there at the beginning. You have a 1 in 16 chance of each grass or each bush dropping a rupee. So you can have very great luck like TH had in this run, or you can have very terrible luck like it seems like LK had.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we see the first bomb trigger. So basically, you drop a bomb, and then through a transition, you drop a bomb. And basically, where you drop that bomb kind of brings 2 bombs onto the screen at the same time. Kinect's getting the setup by pausing right beforehand. That lets you buffer 2 bombs out really easily. But yeah, and gets to the next one. Basically, it just puts a bunch of animations out there at the same time. And the game just loads the next animation. And depending on what enemies are alive and like the area or sector that you're in, you might get something good, like skipping the owl flapping onto the screen, or skipping Terran being, you know, just the worst.
Well, and it's funny, the first few minutes of this game, we're kind of used to it, but it goes by really quick, because by getting the powder for the trendy game, we're entirely skipping the Mushroom Witch side quest that you normally have to complete. And even though we have the powder, you're supposed to powder Terran to turn him from a raccoon back into a human. But the bomb trigger is just so fast that we just kind of walk right in, transform him, and get the key. Yeah,
so we see TGH on Dungeon 1 menuing to shield and arrows. It's a little bit, I think it just sets up his menus a little bit better later, because you don't necessarily need to use any arrows here, depending on how quickly you do the Spike Beetle room, or how you do the Spike Beetle room.
Well, arrows are faster than going for the other strat, which would be, you know, spin slash.
Well, you can double bump them both into the hole.
Yeah, you can. That's kind of harder to do.
Yeah.
So you can see there, like, Tej is able to shoot the guy in midair with an arrow instead of having to follow him down, slash him a couple times.
Yeah,
it's not a big difference, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's just the one that's harder. And TGH is going to be a lot more aggressive with arrows, just being super familiar, and gets the good bump there, and then, yeah, just sets up the menu, so immediately gets feathered the second he does it, save and quits out, and is just going to barely avoid this hard hat beetle. That's a really tight thing until you start getting it, but that's pretty tight. As we see everybody,
he's gonna be hopping around everywhere now.
Yeah, and that's good. There's rolling bones.
So that's something else too. Yeah, that's something else too. Is that all the runners stole the bow at the very beginning there with their shop, and what was Tej going for there?
He's going for the other setup that I think is just because you have a better chance of Moldorm not being the worst, but Moldorm is still the worst.
Moldorm is always the worst.
That really sucks.
Yeah, not going for the backup. So Moldorm starts in the top right-hand side, and if you're going for the absolute fastest Moldorm fight, you're gonna do it with what am I saying? A spin slash and then 2 regular slashes. As TGH is going to kill this guy to grab a heart. Can go up and kill the 3 of a kind, or just fall into a pit. And okay, well. But this is in my opinion the hardest trick in the entire game, is this jump right here. It just, and is doing it. I know I saw one runner do it from that side. I think Say does it from the right hand side.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that last jump he's doing to get into the transition, it's a really tight timing.
You have, I think, 2 or 3 pixels that are legal. And Pika Pals takes a death on Moldorm, which that's not uncommon. TGH still retaining their lead though, fights down Moldorm. It's still, even with all of that craziness, is still ahead of my PP at this point, I think. I like, he just saves so much time on overworld movement. It's crazy. Like, his early game is really, really solid. And like,
well, and it's awesome to see someone of his caliber show off these, you know, these tricks that probably other runners aren't going to do because they don't save too much time, but it's cool to get to see them.
Yeah, in all honesty, I feel a little better about myself knowing that other people can actually mess up that jump, because I just felt like it was impossible. So, and we actually see LK is just going to go grab the boss key. You know, forget that strategy. We're just going to go grab the boss key and then walk back down to Moldorm. And there's a little clip you can do. That's the only jump into the game that's like that. You clip into that wall. It sort of, when you jump, it sort of tricks yourself into being in that ledge fall state. It's just an interesting super jump, and that's the only one of its kind that we see in the run. But, you know, that saves, they don't have to deal with this next room for avoiding that.
But yeah, something I was going to say earlier is that we steal the bow early on, because it really helps with a few of these mini bosses early on in the game. Like, we saw Rolling Bones there. All the runners, it just took 2 arrows, and that was it. And I think it would normally take like 8 sword slashes or something like that. So it's a very helpful weapon.
Yeah, you don't want to be fighting Rolling Bones with just sword, because it's a little annoying, and you especially don't want to be fighting Rolling Bones when all you have is sword, because you're playing a rando. The boss is not something to sneeze at, because the spikes can clank your sword, that eats everything. So TGH is the Moblin Cave. He does a really, really cool strat for this boss, and I hope he gets it. So he drags him over to the wall, slashes him to like realign him, and then it basically keeps Moblin King up against this wall the entire time. So this is as fast as possible, and this is so clean and so hard to do. Whereas everybody else is going to do for the standard thing, he can shoot somewhere between 2 and 5 arrows. I've never seen 5 arrows, but I've been informed that that is a thing that can happen.
Yeah, I think until recently we didn't even know that 5 was possible.
Yeah. It's like, I remember when I learned this game, everybody said, yeah, 2 and 4, but that's just, it's small RNG there. And now we see if Bow Wow decides to be gracious enough to let people in. Some people like to jump and spam sword to roll RNG more, because everything rolling RNG makes Bow Wow do things, but Bow Wow can also just miss eating when it dives for some reason, or at least it looks like it. And oh no, TGH does not light both lanterns. So we see everybody heading up towards Dungeon 2.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I know TGH is a night owl. He and I have both been awake since 9 p.m. last night. We have not slept, so
yeah, that's
so he's not at his freshest.
Yeah, little late for him.
Not at his freshest.
Little late, but we're seeing everybody go through. TGH is going to take a much more aggressive arrow route. Did save arrows in that first room. I've been watching some of his runs recently, and I think it's because of a trick that he recently discovered to skip having to deal with horse heads. It's a little bit slower on... It's a little bit faster on average, but it's slower than throwing horse heads if you get lucky.
So I just want to point out that Pika Pals and Kinetics are still pretty close, but they were neck and neck, and Pika Pals had a little muscle memory from our main category, and he forgot he can skip a key. Because of how we're going to finish this dungeon later, we don't actually need that many keys, and so he had to double back a little bit.
Yeah, the keys you can skip, and oh, okay. I guess he's doing it. I'm happy.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just going for the early skip, which is much harder than doing it later.
This does save time. Should still be fine on arrows. And actually, I like the way that he pushes the blocks there, but I like having that one block because it sets my lineup up very well. And I think he has it. Yeah.
Nice.
It's really good. I'm really happy about that someone actually did that, because that trick is stupid. It's not recommended, but when you need to save those last couple seconds, you gotta.
So all the other runners are going to be doing this at the very last point in the run before getting to the egg, when they have the boots, and it's basically 10 times easier.
Yeah,
what TGH here had to do, he had to manipulate his subpixels throughout that entire room to make sure he didn't press a diagonal, so that he could do that super jump unclipped.
Yeah, you can't, when you exit the stairs, your subpixels are set to a value that just let you do that.
Yeah.
And basically, if you press a diagonal, if you move while taking damage and therefore end up doing diagonal movement, if you know, there's just a bunch of things that can go wrong in that room. It just did it really cleanly, so that's good. And he's gonna go over here, unlock a warp that'll save a bunch of time later. Probably won't be silly and super jump Jesus jump behind Candlelit Castle to lose 11 seconds, but you know.
But we can hope, though.
We can hope. I can always hope. That trick would just be for me.
So there's these 4 or 5 overworld warps that you fall into these pits and they just warp you around in order to the ones you've unlocked. And all you have to do to unlock them is to have visited that screen at some point in the game. So it's actually worth going out of your way after D2 to collect that, and we'll use it to get back to that waterfall later.
Yeah, it saves quite a bit of time to do that, and then just go back to D2 to go down to D3. But yeah.
Actually, did kinetics not? I'm a little confused. How is TGH behind the others on
I am a little confused. I don't see an instrument. I'm guessing, did they not unlock the warp, maybe?
Oh, sorry, it's because TG did the D2 skip early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
my
was just
fault.
behind because of the very, very poor early game thing.
Well, I was almost wondering if they forgot to get the warp, but I'm sure they did.
TJ's gonna do the way harder version of Villa skip and escape, where you jump a bunch of diagonals and there's a bunch of pits and it's hard. And then probably do the very fast escape right here, and doesn't quite get it, but at least transitions and fall into a hole. It feels really bad, to the point where I would not be surprised if everybody else transitions and then goes down, as we see Dungeon 3 starting to happen.
So we can change our attention to Pika Pals here, as he's sort of leading the charge here now on the routing, although we have to remember that
TGH will save time over them at the end of the run.
Yeah.
Because
so
he
we have to
doesn't
keep that in
go
mind, but
back.
it is just a little unfortunate that the routing difference happens at the very beginning for TGH and at the very end for these other guys.
Yeah, and good Dodongo skip for Pika Pals. You just do that, you skip needing to grab one key, because all we need is the boots, and we can just do that super jump. We might see a runner or two grab a spare key. They're not really that out of the way if they don't feel comfortable, because you can soft lock on that trick, and it feels really bad. I would not be surprised. Off screen, everybody else is actually keeping up pretty well. Just our off-stream racers. They're all in D3 or entering D3 right now, which is kind of crazy.
So Pika Pals just did a dashing super jump off of a wall, bounced off a Zal to get into this room, and then did another setup to.
No, okay. Yeah, because he paused. Actually, if he didn't pause there, he would have DQ'd his run.
Yeah, because I thought he was gonna zip, but then he saved it with
he
a
saved
pause buffer.
it with the menu. I don't know if that was an intentional save menu. I think it was just when you're going through the screen menu to switch to boots, and that's actually pretty smart. They were a little bit off, and if you mess that up, you'll zip down. They actually did a version of the skip that looks like how a D7 skip they'll do later goes. But yeah, this Zol trick, the Zols jump at you, you jump at them, and then if TGH has that super jump, that was really tight on that boots timing.
Yeah, and that was basically the way you want it to go. You don't want to transition on that very corner. You want to transition like a tile over so that you fall down and don't have to worry about zipping downward.
Yeah, and we'll see kinetics.
What the game does is, if you transition onto a screen and you're gonna land on a solid tile, the game will actually shoot you down until the next available walkable tile.
Yeah.
So if you happen to transition on a very corner of a screen that's all walls, it'll just keep zipping you down many screens until there's finally a break that it can drop you on.
And we actually see LK going for the just grabbing that extra key to skip needing to clank off the Dodongos. I actually saw Pika Pals earlier not getting that extra key, but flock clipping through there, which we didn't explain and doesn't really show up anymore. It might show up at D6, so we'll talk about that then. But we're seeing Pika Pals take a bunch of damage and doing a safety save here, because this can go wrong depending on how you do it. There's a safe way that is slower, but there is a fast way that is, you know, faster.
And if he were to soft lock here, he would not be able to save and quit out. He would have to hard reset the game.
Yeah, it does do the safe way, so, and TGH at a very good amount of hearts. Yeah, basically, you skip this cutscene and you transition off the screen before the game kind of takes away your ability to move, but after it takes away your ability to push any other button, so you can't do anything else.
So yeah, so him leaving that screen is frame perfect between either being soft locked or the walrus not actually despawning in time.
Yeah, conveniently, there's a very safe setup where you buffer the first bomb and then go through the transition, and you'll basically be in the right spot. And you know you've done it right if you transition back and the walrus isn't there. And it feels good and everyone's happy. But I haven't been watching LK. Did they? Okay, they didn't fight the D3 boss. Everybody's skipping it. I see some people doing a bird bump, which is a neat trick. It's a little bit easier to set up, but definitely slower.
And Pika Pal's getting the angler key from the invisible Landmola.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, the hitbox is entirely active before the first spawning, so you can just fire 2 quick arrows and the boss just dies.
Yeah, that's a common theme for some bosses in this game.
Yeah.
If you ever watch any of the community's tournaments, we usually meme that up a little bit because it gets boring saying there's an invisible Landmola 1,000 times. And we have a piece of power in for LK on that screen. Bow Wow being a little bit voracious, I guess, because that seems like a weird place to get one. But
and unfortunately, it doesn't help too much.
Yeah. But Dungeon 4 is an interesting one. There was some theory crafting going on about opening this backwards. We're gonna see some neat shack jump here. Basically, those push blocks kind of manipulate your subpixel as well.
Yeah, so we saw Pika Pals just do a normal kind of super jump there, and TH going for the shack jump, which it's a really cool one because you don't get to do it in too many spots.
Yeah, there's one other spot, and honestly, I think the shack jump's a little bit easier to set up than the super jump, and maybe that's just the way I play the game ends up like that, where the inputs kind of get a bit finicky. But TGH gaining on Pika Pals despite the early dip for D2 and going for this.
So Pika Pal's blowing up that block with a bomb arrow, and TGH instead doing a Jesus jump to clip into it and avoid it altogether.
That's really hard to do, but it does save because his arrow route is so much more aggressive. It does, and 2. Oh, that's so good.
Wow.
That was frame perfect. Flips onto the wall. It's so fast.
So what he did in both those locations, a Jesus jump is you can pause buffer as you're falling into the water, and Link will only move a frame at a time. And the second Link splashes, that frame before he actually enters the water, you can buffer a jump out of that.
Yeah.
Or transition or whatnot. So even though he didn't have the flippers yet, he was able to pause buffer into a transition and then just jump out.
Yeah, and you have to use the pause menu to do that, otherwise it just doesn't end up working out.
Well, actually, you can frame perfectly do a save and quit menu, but it's definitely not recommended.
Yeah, because the save and quit menu buffers a weird amount of time, but...
Well, you can't buffer it. You would have to just YOLO it.
Oh, yeah. But it buffers, you know, somewhere between 0 or 1, depending on what's going on from discussions that we've had.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but it lets... there's buffer setups for, like, every trick in this game, including one that they're not going to do as they swim past the part of Martha's Bay that contains the magnifying lens. If anybody watched the GDQ run that Glyph did recently, they'll understand what wide bump is. But yeah, we're gonna see. This is Dungeon 5. This is the longest dungeon in every other category, except for, I guess, Hundo, because you skip a huge chunk of it with another early hookshot glitch. But this is a if you do it, and yeah, it's like, okay, if that's boot speed, then has it, yeah. That's
trick, way harder than it looks.
It might be frame perfect on that turn, just to know that you have boot speed, because you need to have boot speed. There are alternatives to this, which we might see some people do. Pika-Pal's doing the standard one where you don't slash that extra crystal. I believe has boot speed here, and then you just buffer / up out of the menu. Okay, recognizes that they have it, but doesn't quite get it. Now it's stuck in the block, but I might be able to recover with a very low super jump. Oh, so yeah, no, it doesn't get it.
It looked like he was buffering a bit there to get closer to the wall to guarantee the super jump, but then he didn't slash left quickly enough.
Yeah, that... normally I just... for whatever reason, it feels like that if you just just buffer it when you have that lineup, you just get it. But yeah, if you don't have boot speed is basically the only time you don't end up getting that trick, and it's very, very quick, and once you get a feel for it, it's nice. I believe grabbed boot speed at the very last second there, confirmed it with that pause buffer, but I think that messed up a little bit. It's a really hard trick. There's an alternative that other people might go for on the slime eel, as we see rapids on TGH's screen. This is a new trick that TGH just came up with recently because he hates horse heads. So he's doing a setup here because the star was moving to the left, and then yeah, I don't think anybody else is going to go for that because that trick is like, what, 3 days old?
Yeah, it's like he came up with like 2 or 3 days ago because, and I quote, "I hate horse heads without the level 2 bracelet."
Yeah, you pick up things very slowly without the level 2 bracelet. It is 3 seconds slower than 4th try, or 3 seconds faster than 4th try horse heads. And it's like even with 3rd try. On average, it's probably faster, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, this is safety, and we're gonna see a facade fight. Not gonna try and go for the frame perfect facade skip, and if you can mash 60 times per second, you can not lose any time, even if you miss the trick. But that's hard. And you also lose your visual cue while doing it. So there's that. And misses 2 bombs on facade.
But yeah, worth mentioning too that horse heads, each horse head is a 50-50 chance of standing upright. So between the two of them, each cycle you have a 25% chance of getting it.
Yeah.
So it can go very wrong.
Yeah. What's Cravone's world record? 34, 32, one of the two.
Yeah, I think it's 33 or 34. Which
I think
just
Pika-Pal's has been paying attention, goes for it, but I think you just back out now. I think Pika-Pal's is still sitting in the Discord, noticing that. Just like, I'm gonna do that. But
very good horse heads, though.
Yeah. And Pika-Pal's horse head luck would have been faster just to not do that. Close race between Pika-Pal's and Kinetics as TGH pulls ahead, and we see everybody on this stream going for the crazy. Okay, so this is save and quits. Okay, it's just resetting the trick.
He might not know the backup to clip into the keyhole.
Yeah, the backup is you can do a flock clip there with the text box. It's really easy to set up. It's only that text box shorter because you don't have to do very specific movement, because basically it's the same subpixel thing that happens when you leave stairs. Avoids those stairs very carefully. That can go wrong. Stairs and pits are still active while you're super swimming, but other doors are not. And Rooster skip. The way I saw TGH do this was insane, with just unclipped super jumps the entire way, which is so fast.
Or naked super jumps.
Naked super jumps, yeah, sorry. Naked super jumps the whole way. But that's so fast and so clean.
It's really nice. So for people who are familiar with the game, there's a big pit. You normally have to fly this undead rooster around. And in our most other categories, we do things called hookshot jumping to literally jump over the pit a couple times to get around. Because we have looser out-of-bound rules in this category, you can do what TGH did just there, which is so much easier and so much nicer and quicker, and one of the highlights of this category for sure.
Yeah, there's this category I think came about when we were memeing about finding a category that we could both super swim and skip rooster skip with.
Well, yeah, I mean, originally I really wanted a category that was like warpless for Link's Awakening, but in DX, which mostly for that trick.
Yeah, It's no one wants to do rooster skip. It's hard unless you're bamboo. It's RNG. And oh, we see just LK dipping into Armos Maze, saying hi to that for 10 seconds. Before heading to SD6, as TGH has grabbed Instrument 4 and is headed up to Dungeon 7, one of the coolest dungeons, I think, in the run, because you kind of see all of it, but you don't see all of it. Bow Wow actually gets into position to eat the cutscene for TGH. It's a good dog. Cutscenes drop hearts, by the way, just so everyone's aware. I don't know what they taste like, though.
And the second half of D4 is kind of a blink and you'll miss it. we keep missing chances to point it out. Once you can super swim, it just... Any dungeon that you can do that in, it's over in a second.
Yeah, and that Dungeon 4 and Dungeon 8 are what's left, so...
So here's Pika-Pals doing Rooster Skip with the sword, which is just a bit easier to execute.
Yeah, it does waste 2 menus, because you menu here, you menu there, so it's definitely 4 seconds slower. TGH doesn't quite get the transition bomb trigger, but gets this really swag bomb trigger. That's my favorite bomb trigger in the entire game, is that one. It just looks so cool because you're doing 2 different things rather than just a transition, because you can drop 2 bombs into a pit to do them, but you can also blow up a bomb and then drop it. So Pika-Pals is in Dungeon 4, so you just kind of clip into this wall and there's deep water here, and it's a cliff face, so you just super swim, you skip Anglerfish, the hardest boss in the game if you ask Cravone, and you just get the surf harp. It's right here. Very, very nice place to be. And let's see, doesn't look like, oh, okay, just YOLOs it, hoping that a Goomba's in the right place, but doesn't waste any time lining that up. Going for the P-Hat Clank. If you get a perfect Goomba surf, it is, like, just barely faster, but it is a 25% chance, and if you take any time setting it up, it's slower. Meanwhile, there's this trick is hard.
It's worth going for, like, 1 attempt and then just doing the P-Hat Clank otherwise.
I think TGH should hold up left here. I think he's going to be a pixel off. Yeah. I can see the pixel. Okay. Oh. Did he get the boots?
Oh,
so
he was able
to
use
boots
boots
over. Yeah. So... Yeah. That trick is weird. And I've failed it so many times. I can look at that and, like, you're not in the right position to do. It's supposed to be 2 jumps and it's consistent. And LK getting the good D6 skip. And we can see the animation for Pika-Pals.
Yeah, that D7 skip, it's sub-pixel dependent. There's a couple weird timings depending on how you execute it, with how long it takes pushing against a ledge before you actually jump. So it can be really finicky. I think TH has a couple strats whereby you eliminate a few of those extra timings.
Oh! This is so... And I saw TGH. This is a reason I recommended boots on A for, like, the rest of the run every time you super swim, because the go fast in water button is A. But if Feather is on A and you jump, your life is over. Like, it's terrible.
So jumping, when you land after a jump from the Feather, it basically counts as ending your free fall state. So we'll see TGH coming up here. He will purposely jump to allow himself to enter D8, but there he jumps by accident and soft locked. Which it's unfortunate. I shouldn't laugh, but
it just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I've done it there. Like, when jumping towards the exit, like, I'll just land like a pixel away from being able to enter D8, and I feel so bad.
Well, it's funny. I actually noticed earlier that the other 3 runners took your advice from the tutorial of putting boots on A. But of course, it's not so easy when you've run this game for so many hours like Teach has. It's muscle memory.
Yeah, and that's TGH actually did too good of a clip and is not quite getting out. Did a thing that he wanted to do in D4, but not in Dungeon 8, and now was in a good spot to do it. I transitioned right, otherwise weird things are going to happen. Okay, good. You don't want to transition up into a Hothead's room. Things happen weird if you're in super swim state.
So this one's funny because it's not just that you're super swimming. You actually have to do a lava swim first. Because if you Jesus jump and transition, in lava, you actually transition before the game has a chance to be like, wait a minute. And it's actually just a layer on top of water and you can swim in it.
Yeah, and it's they menu to sword there because that is a sub-pixel dependent trick, and sword slashing against that transition sets you up perfectly, which I didn't know that until someone told me, why don't you slash your sword there? That's a sub-pixel dependent trick, and then I could never get it without slashing my sword ever again after I learned that, which I'm just mad at. It's probably Xander's fault. But anyway, TGH is coming up to the final boss. Still almost done with this game. Despite, everything that's going wrong, is on pace for like a 35.
Yeah, still a very good run.
Yeah.
There were a few mistakes, but everything he did well otherwise, so.
Yeah, it was just, yeah.
And worth noting that the path from D8 to the egg, you always have to walk past D2, so in TGH's case, he's already done it. He'll save a little bit of time in menus and transitions to not do it now.
And bow wow.
But otherwise, for everyone else, it'll work out pretty well routing-wise that you leave D8, you walk right in front of D2, do that, and then go right to the egg.
Yeah, you just lose the time on if Bow Wow decides to eat, whether or not you actually get things going.
Yeah.
And
Bow Wow RNG the second time around is actually why TGH was like, yeah, no, I'm just doing D2 in one go.
I have lost 2 minutes on enter D2 the first time because Bow Wow refused to eat, which is why when I saw that trick that skipped re-entering it, I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And didn't get the sword slash, so Pika Pals has to open the save and quit menu. Not that, okay, good thing Pika Pals has played the other categories. Which,
So your save and quit, like the warp that you get sent to when you save and quit, it's set on a submap basis, not based on the actual entrance you last entered in. So in dungeons like D6 or D8, where there's actually multiple entrances, if you save and quit, you always get sent to the front, regardless.
Yeah, Pika Pals realizing that can enter Super Swim State off of this wall, which is good. So it's not that bad if you are familiar. Oh wait, but they can't. Oh, but they already picked up the arrows, so they're fine. They can't re-enter the lava though; they'll just get hurt. But yeah, people want those arrow pickups. Is actually very low on health, but will be re-entering D2 as we see. I missed TGH's blob quick kill. We'll probably be able to explain that with Pika Pals.
Yeah, TGH is actually he's manipulating the RNG on Aghanim because he entered this room by bomb triggering. Or like bomb triggering upon entering this room to disable the music. The music is what rolls the RNG in this Aghanim fight. And he is positioning himself precisely based on where Aghanim goes to avoid getting any of the blue balls that Aghanim likes to fire, and RNG is awful.
So it's actually, we don't really have a way to manipulate Aghanim per se, but we have a script so that we know that if Aghanim does this, then you can counteract by doing this to make sure you don't get any blue balls.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because basically it's based on all the RNG that's rolled and whether or not, the music is playing and where his position is. You stand on an even or an odd pixel, so you know where to go stand while it's still being the fastest. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's a very neat trick, and we're going to see Pika Pals, or actually we'll see Kinetics do it first. The very, very easy version of this trick where you just do another boots bonk into the wall. And although, is the bunny in a good place? Okay, yeah, I'm like, that seemed low. Might be able to boots through and does.
Nice.
But that trick is super easy in comparison.
Oh, much easier, because the boots makes the super jump free. You don't have to worry about sub-pixels. And looks like Teach has shot the final arrow into his death eye.
Yeah, and it will be finishing with a 34 something. That's crazy. And he lost so much time on that D1 too. That was a crazy good run, other than just the minor mistakes that was made. But and
it's funny. It's funny because this is like a plus 2 minutes for him, but it's still a phenomenal run.
It's like the better than the third place time or whatever, or second or fourth place time. Like, it's crazy.
This is his caliber, right?
Yeah, he's insanely good at this game.
That was an incredible run.
But yeah, so I just want to point out too that it looks like Kinetics took the lead from Pika Pals after Pika Pals' mishap in D8, but still very close, like within margin of error on the boss fight.
Yeah, and this boss fight.
A little trouble on this bomb trigger.
Yeah. And oh man, not getting it. I have never faced left there, so I don't know.
There it is.
And see, facing right works, so just never face left. It's superstitions that we like to invent for this game a lot.
The problem that can happen is depending on, you can only stand on like 2 different horizontal pixels on the stairs, and sometimes if you're like one or the other, you don't get as much distance when you bonk. You have to be really careful you're on the transition.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see who is going to finish this race between the two. They're both very close. Looks like probably 39-ishes. No, not that high. Maybe 38s.
Well, and I'll be interested to see if they go for the blob quick kill, and especially then if they go for the Agony minute.
So LK just picked up the 50 rupees in D2, which I made a comment of grabbing the swamp rupees or the rupees in D2 and going buying the medicine from Tracy to make it so that you don't have to worry about the final boss killing you.
Okay.
So I'm like, ooh, that's exciting. We'll see medicine maybe. Medicine basically doubles your health bar effectively, but you're also completely invulnerable while you refill for medicine, which lets you do cool things like beat this game without feather at all. But yeah, it's neat.
Meanwhile, we've brought Shrambles onto the screen.
Yeah, Tramble's doing real well.
Also, yeah, they are coming up on. He's coming up on the final boss as well, trying to get this bomb trigger going. There we go.
Shrambles is definitely going to PB off of this, I think. Shrambles' PB is like a 42, and he's on a great pace. And we see Pika Pals did get the blob, whereas Kinetics is fighting the blob the normal way. I wouldn't be randomly sprinkling your powder until that blob is defeated, because you don't have mushroom.
And only 2 powder left.
Yeah, and I believe Pika Pals knows the manip and has the application for it.
Definitely looks like he's going for it. Oh, not a good position though.
I think that was the last hit, so it didn't matter. And oh, LK, yeah, right. LK goes and grabs this. So you have the ghost, but the ghost doesn't stop you from entering the egg. So we get to see this this ghost that would normally pop up after you beat D4 without the level 2 bracelet. If you go basically below the swamp Y on the map, you get the ghost.
It's the lower half of the map.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more than the lower half.
It's the lower half. It's like if you go below row 8.
Is it really that low? Because I thought it was like the 5th row down. Because there's the 2 here, and then that'd be row 5. It's below row 4.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's the swamp is like 4 rows. Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, but yeah, so you get the ghost. So we get this really silly, just flying Bow Wow because of sprites that are being loaded. The game is just like, well, the companion sprite is Bow Wow, so this is your life now, and you can get a bunch of companions at the same time, and
they all have different priorities as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because when we were watching LK practice before the start of the stream, I saw him with the ghost, and it didn't even occur to me how he got it. Like, was it the medicine, or I don't know.
So Shrambles didn't get the bomb trigger, but actually got the backup quick kill, but because that one's sort of RNG as to whether or not you get it, you might do some damage to the blob. So like you're randomly doing damage to the blob with your sword, which he got, and then did the backup position to get some more damage. So only had to use 2 powder there. That's pretty sick. And there's Pika Pals finishing up.
Looked like 3850 or so.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Very good, yeah. That bops you, doesn't it?
No, I have a 34. Or sorry, 37. I have a 37. Which I got because I was sad I couldn't submit the showcase run I did. So Spice maybe run it back. And TPC has made the joke that they have fallen into the same trap as Kinetics, also finishing up. And I guess we should explain the Moldorm quick kill. Trambles, you can stop slashing him. You can slash Moldorm forever, basically.
Well, not forever,
well,
but...
Yeah, basically. But, what is it, 256 times? And I don't know what happens when you do that.
So, all of these forms of the final boss, they're the exact same, like, enemy entity in the game. It just goes into, like, a different phase. So, if you quick kill Moldorm, but just keep slashing, past Moldorm's health, you'll actually just kill the entire final boss, and you'll be soft locked in the final room.
Okay, yeah, because you have to reach this final phase in order for it to do that, and it's there's some skips to this boss where you keep a bat alive, but the bat has 0 HP, and it replaces everything on the screen with this boss, so the 0 HP bat dies, so you win the game. So it's a neat trick. As we see arrows. Shremels, I know, was worried about this boss, but it's going to do good. If you're going to take a hit from this guy, you want to do it on his body, because that only does half a heart. But Shremels has lost control. I'm a little concerned.
Oh, just hop and stay alive.
Just keep hopping. At least depending on where the arms are. Oh, yeah, I was really worried about that jump.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was so good.
He made that so much harder than he needed to.
Every fight I have against that boss looks so much harder than it needs to, but I've done it so many times that I'm comfortable when that boss is out of control.
So he honestly did a great job with how out of control that was. But it's funny to me, it's something that newer players do that older players don't, is you will learn pretty quickly never to jump left and right. Just jump forward and backwards.
Yeah, or like walk up and down. Like you don't even have to jump.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that fight is really fun when you let the game start becoming a problem. Like sometimes I might jump to the right to pull him into the other corner, depending on where his arms are, or if the pattern is really, really bad, because his arms start like desyncing later into the fight. Oh, that's 2 arrows straight down from LK.
Also, look at this, Socrates and Tea Party Cthulhu, like all nightmare fight. This was a really close race.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh,
They were, I think TPC had like an 1 and 25-minute fight like earlier, and I think I told them to go get the medicine, and they're just like, that's a really good idea. I don't know if they did it. They have rupees that suggest that maybe, because it could cost, because like they have a lot.
Yeah, both of them have over 10, so.
Yeah, you unless that randomly happens. Like sometimes they'll end with that many rupees, but not often. But they were looking for ways to save time. I suggested grabbing like an extra heart container from the pieces of heart that are kind of in your face. They really don't take that much time to get, because the one that takes the most time is the well.
Socrates is playing like he can't die, so I don't know if
yeah, I don't think Socrates has it, or is just trying to conserve it for the final phase.
Good thing the hitbox on that halberd is not
accurate.
It's not very good. And LK is done.
Okay, going strong. A lot of people I'm seeing we have on the egg.
Yeah, and I just want to mention 1UP40 a few minutes ago finished. They're one of the off-stream racers, and they finished with a 39:45.
Oh, very good.
They're actually the only off-stream racer so far who has finished.
Yeah, one of them is just gonna finish up soon. Pop-Tart Cat just. Wait, no, is that the final death sound? No, that's not the death knell. They just entered the final boss. They're tied with Piper, who's also doing that, and I see a couple other people headed towards the egg. Spritz T.
Socrates over here making me nervous. I don't think Socrates has the medicine.
Socrates has a very good final boss fight, though. Final phase fight.
I also wasn't sure how many hits Socrates has done, and I just saw 12 arrows, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
You don't want to be. There's a member in our
TPC,
community who.
oh no!
Oh, takes the death.
No medicine.
No medicine. Did not go for it. Does a hard reset immediately.
That was so close.
Did save before then because the final boss was stressing them out. We have Joe also on the egg. Joe, I think, grabbed every safety heart container I told him about. As you can see, he has 7.
Joe is not messing around.
Yeah, Joe, I believe, decided that the D7 skip and the D3 skips weren't worth it. I know definitely said that about D3, but I'm not sure if they did got the D3 skip or the D7 skip, or grab the pieces of heart that are on the way, because there are 4 that are basically right in your face. The one that costs the most time, the well, doesn't cost as much time as it would seem, because it sets your saving quit point to a better position after you do the mysterious woods and get the tail key.
I also noticed that Joe paused in the maze for a second. Looked like he might have forgotten Lurulu.
Yeah.
A very important thing.
Yeah, I just remember that from like 1998. I just think I looked it up because I didn't want to find where all the trade quest was. I just want to know how to get through Egg, and that was the answer. Oh, but everybody doing a real good job.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this was a very close race by comparison to, like, for example, like Doom or SMB2. Everyone like worked really hard to learn this category over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I'm happy. They'll be rewarded for sticking it out for so long. I think they'll be very happy with the next game. At least the game will be very happy. I don't know if they will, but you know, there's that game is very happy. But you know, we'll see it when we get there. But yeah, not hard, and now I can bait all of my friends who played this game into playing the rando, which is always good. Rando for this game is very fun, especially the entrance rando. You normally don't think that one's any good, but doing Dungeon 7 with no items is one of like you can do so many things in this game because of the movement that it becomes very, very neat. And there was a version of it that had logic that single entrances always go to single entrances, so Towns and Armos Maze had all your dungeons. As we see TBC fighting Moldorm.
I do think it's very interesting, though, that while it's a pretty approachable category, especially from your tutorial with all the backups and different routes you could take, these guys all really nailed it, I feel.
Oh, yeah, they did
in a very short period of time.
Yeah. No, when I was doing this, I was stressing a little bit just because, you know, I had such a short amount of time to shotgun it, and I'm like, maybe this was a little bit more aggressive on the timetable than I thought it was going to be. You know, to just like unretire, and then it took 10 hours to get a sub-hour run, but or not a sub-hour, but like a sub-40. But they all did a really good job, and the safeties are very helpful as we see Joe on that final phase and TPC re-entering the final phase. Joe did not need this much health, I think, just did not do the other skips, but you know, when you take it this safe, you get a 45 or like a 47, that's still good.
Something I think that's also pretty impressive with the racers we've seen today is they might not have a lot of comfort with, you know, particulars of the game, but they all seem very comfortable with the movement and stuff in general.
Yeah, I love
like,
the movement.
Things that I've seen other people take weeks to, you know, kind of wrap their heads around. These guys look very comfortable jumping around, swinging their sword.
Yeah, and I know King Dime is in this race. I'm pretty sure this might be his first Zelda game. Which
I think so, and I recall he was learning the run last night.
Yeah, just like because his boss gave him overtime, so he did not have a bunch of time to do it. But just wants to play video games, you know, play a lot of Doom, lot of Doom. Wants to try other video games. As I see, there's TBC
Joe just finished,
and Joe finished as well.
Piper finished as well with a 46.46, and Pop-Tart Cat with a 47.05. Piper's comment being, I learned not to save and quit before getting the D4 key the hard way.
Oh, that's rough.
Yep.
Yeah, because then oh man, that you got to talk to an owl, you got to go back and then into a pit. Yeah, that's rough. I don't actually. Do you get to refight Lem all of the things there? And oh no, hang on. I'll just DM Dime how to actually kill Slime Eye.
Oh no. But yeah, that's GG's to all of our featured racers on stream today. So definitely like sub 50 for the whole crew. Like
yeah, that's
I'm ecstatic with that. That's pretty good. Like I'm real happy with those times. That's good. But yeah,
like that's only like 50% above the world record for brand new. Like yeah, for an entire field of runners.
Yeah, like that's. Honestly, like this is probably the most impressive race we've had so far in terms of like how everyone did. That was on stream, like relative to like what we expected.
And hey, for all you guys running or watching at home, you got to see how easily it is to pick this game up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it only takes 2 weeks or whatever. I entered a tournament with maybe like 10 hours of practice and had the, I guess, the privilege of somehow advancing to top 16 and getting annihilated by TGH in the first round. Because I was not prepared for that. But it's a really fun game. The community is great. We'll have our yearly tournament sometime soon. We're working out a category.
Actually, yeah, that's going to be very soon.
Yeah, we're yeah. That's I'm like, this is a good time to announce that we're really close to that.
Yeah.
And everybody will help you definitely with a lot of parts of this game. Although maybe not this category because Xander is mad at me, but for making people know that this category exists.
Actually, if anyone is interested in picking this up, there is now a full-blown tutorial by Alpha, like in the community spotlight VODs here on the Hotfix for GDQ. So go check that out on YouTube. Would definitely recommend. But that said, like, any closing words, you two, before we move on to a break? Before we end up with announcing Game 4 for Speed Seasons.
No, I think this was an awesome race. Thank you all for having me help commentate, and yeah, check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, thank you for being on to help commentate the race. It's very much appreciated, Spirister.
Yeah, it's this game has been, due to cancellations and everything else, trying, but I'm glad everything went as smoothly as it did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, through trials and tribulations, we did it.
Yeah, we made it. But yeah, I guess we can go to a break and get ready to announce the next game. I'm sure everybody is going to be happy because here's a spoiler: it's definitely a different genre again.
Oh yeah. So just a reminder to everyone that information on all of our Hotfix shows is available at gamesdonequick.com/hotfix. From there, you can find out more information about submitting your runs to any of our weekly shows, or if you want to figure out how to get involved in Speed Seasons, let me go ahead and type that command in there for you. It's going to be !SS3 in chat, and that's going to direct you to the Speed Seasons website. If you want to check standings, see what our past games have been, check out rules, figure out how you can participate, that's there as well. And also, SGDQ 2021 online is July 4th to the 11th. Game submissions are open until the end of today, so that's 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to prep your submissions if you'd like to be a part of SGDQ 2021 from the comfort of your own home. As well as volunteer submissions being open. Those open on April 9th. They close on the 23rd. If you want to volunteer, whether it's hosting or helping out with tech checking, all sorts of other things, donation scanning, being head donations, all that sort of stuff, check out gamesdonequick.com for more information on some volunteer submissions and game submissions as well. So that said, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in just a few with our reveal of Game 4, so stay tuned. Good evening. I don't know what time is anymore. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amber Cyper, and welcome back to the third episode of Speed Seasons 3. I'm your host. I'm joined by the organizer Alpha for this competition. And we've got another game for you. It's this is Game 4. We're now entering into the over halfway territory of the 7 games that will be total for this competition. So Alpha, what do you got to say for yourself here?
Well, let's see. I'm just gonna quote one of the racers who's joined a couple races for the event, King Dime, who said, basically, because he played Doom and now he's playing Link's Awakening, and he said, "I feel like Alpha put these 2 speed games side by side on purpose. Exact opposite of Doom. Early game is comfy unless you're aiming for crazier tricks in Dungeon 2 and gets harder, etc., etc." So he may have picked up the part where these games start are a little different from each other, and this game is probably the most different of any game that has ever existed. We had a video for you in the original format, but unfortunately, due to some late night debauchery, he exploded into stardust. So our great tech guy, Railkun, made something. Railkun, why don't you roll the video? So yeah, we're gonna be playing Katamari Damacy. It is a game that this is a good game. This is a lot of fun. To describe what's happening, if you want to know the plot, the King of Cosmos has one of those nights, makes some decisions, and breaks everything in the night sky. So that's now your problem because you're his kid. That's not his problem. He's busy not caring about anything. So you got to do that.
Chastising you the whole time.
Yeah, while telling you that you need things. So we have a good runner here by the name of Sunker. He's pretty good at Katamari. He's going to show us how this is going to go. Sunker, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Excited to play Katamari. There's never been a better time to pick up this game. Ever since Reroll came out, the amount of players actively picking it up and playing it has just grown a ton. And I'm going to be playing the original PS2 version here, but they're very similar games, and so there's a very active community.
I actually do want to ask you, Alpha, is the Reroll version that is available like on modern consoles and on PC, is that allowed for this?
I'm gonna have to. I'll make a judgment call. I've heard that they're very, very, very similar.
Well,
but I don't know if it's one's super faster than the other one.
Yeah, Reroll is like minutes faster, thanks to loads and stuff, and the physics are similar. But I think it's hard to get a clean conversion from one to the other, so it'd be best to standardize to PS2.
Yeah. And there's plenty of ways to figure out how to play this version. But yeah, we're gonna show this off. This is gonna be something. It's gonna be very spectacular.
I'm really looking forward to it. I played thanks Railkun, Katamari Damacy. I played that for the first time last year. Casually, myself and my partner TGH, who just did the Link's Awakening race. And that I was just like, oh man, this game is great. Well, I'd played it a little bit, and then I was just like, yo, they remade it, let's go. And I made TGH play it, and he was like, this is delightful. I don't want to stop playing. Like, just rolling things up into like an amalgamation of nonsense is addicting. So if you haven't played this, you absolutely should. And if you are picking it up because you see this run, come play in Speed Season. Could even just be this one race. Let's do it. But yeah, seriously, thank you, Sunker, for joining us to demonstrate this game. I'm really looking forward to it myself.
Absolutely. I think for me personally, more than doing the run, I'm looking forward to watching the race in a couple weeks to see how everybody does in learning the game.
I don't even think you can be mad if you mess up things in this game because everything's just so happy. Like it's just so much fun. I can't think of anything about this game other than the bear level and finding which bear was the biggest that made me upset while playing Katamari.
Thankfully, the bear level is very different in the speedrun.
Yeah, speedrun bear level is what I did the first time because I didn't even see that first bear. I just touch it.
Yeah, I did the same thing actually, and I was like, what? Can I redo it? No. I got so angry at that, and this is the Make the Moon category. So what does that exactly entail?
It's basically the any % category, but it's the category that gets you to the credits, and the moon is the final level that you have to complete to get to the credits.
Okay.
It entails playing the Make a Star levels in order from 1 to 9, and then moon. But before you can play 7, you actually have to play one of the constellations, and that's why I brought up Bear. Playing the Bear level is actually part of the speedrun, and you'll see it when I get there.
That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But yeah, we can go ahead and get into this run in just a moment. But who else is excited for Katamari Damacy? I'm not gonna let Railkun live this down.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm seeing some of the reactions of the racers who have been in most of the games of the event. And I will say, if you want to participate in this event, you have to join Katamari. You have to, because you have to play 4 games. This is game number 4. There's 3 after it, so you just got to do it. You know, play some Katamari.
So should I give a countdown? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, we are ready to go.
All right, then on go. 3, 2, 1, go. So first up, just gotta mash through some intro stuff real quick. First level is very short, and then I'll have some time to explain some basics about Katamari, if I can't do it right now. I guess the main things to keep in mind are this game controls weird. And to keep speed after you've boosted, and you'll see a boost at the very start of the level, which you do execute by alternating the sticks up and down quickly. You'll probably hear me boosting a lot through the mic. To keep your speed, you want to turn constantly, snaking, and that is what makes a lot of the movement very challenging in this game. There's also just a million things to consider about routing constantly. And because the movement is so difficult, it's hard to keep to a consistent route. You have to know all kinds of backups in order to make up size when you've missed objects, or to take advantage when you've gotten more than usual. So in that aspect, I like to think of Katamari as somewhere as a mix between some kind of racing game with deep movement and the routing of a JRPG, because you've got to keep all these numbers in your head constantly. The other thing that makes it even deeper on top of those two, if that wasn't complicated enough, is that the physics and how you control the ball change based on how you pick up objects. And you kind of see that in this tutorial page right here. They're showing you how if you've got a really long object attached to the ball, you'll vault a little bit. But that's true for literally everything that you pick up. So you can't always completely trust your muscle memory, and you've got to kind of pay attention, and you really don't want to get frustrated at mistakes, because adapting quickly to fix your mistakes is key to getting a good time in this game, and just paying attention constantly. Which I'm probably not going to do a great job of, because I'm going to be trying to talk over the whole run, so I'll probably make mistakes a bunch, but that's just how Katamari goes. Little small bit of tech here is that pressing R2 instead of R1 is faster to transition between planets. It's a secret. It says to press R1, but just press R2.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing. Also, moving with the D-pad is a little bit faster when you're selecting the levels too. Oh gosh, I got that spawn. That's rare. There's very little randomness in this game in terms of spawning objects, but the start of 2, this level, is one of the few instances of it where you can spawn on top of different objects that kind of change the way the level starts. For the most part, objects are fixed, but there's sometimes like a set of 3 objects that could spawn in one position. And yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about it when I'm already way past it at the end of the level, but it could have been different at the start of the level. There's a basket that you have to roll out of instead of being able to immediately boost, and that slows down the start. Oh, cool. It's made a basket being a little bit finicky, but the second level is already over. It's very hard to keep up with this game in commentary, especially for the early levels, because they're all around a minute. at longest. I was going to talk about how there's like 2 different routes that you can do for the end of that level now, but it's kind of hard to now because I'm already moving on to make a Star 3.
Yeah, that's what tomorrow's for.
Yeah,
That's exactly what tomorrow is for.
The start of this level is very cool. I love the segment up to around 20 centimeters. There's just a lot of quick turning around and boosting all over the place and picking up lots of small objects that accumulate really quickly. There's also these butterflies kind of roaming around randomly. It's very helpful to get them if you can, but you kind of don't have too much control over that because where they are in their cycle at the start of the level is random. Whoops, a little bit over boosted there. The goal here is to get the eggplant. We could start talking about some size things too. So I kind of want to be 21.1 here to pick up these fireworks that I'm getting right now. Next size I'm keeping in mind is later on I want to be around 29 to start getting paint cans a little bit later. There's so while there's a unique size you have to be to pick up every single object in the game. Ooh, almost stuck on the stairs there. There's a lot of bottlenecks in the route. So it's a lot simpler than thinking about the size for every single object. I don't know what you have to do to pick up these watermelons because it's not relevant. I'm always going to be big enough for it. But for example, whoop, car got me. Being 29 for the paint cans is the size that I had in mind. And then I'm gonna get the bucket here. I don't know what the size of these fire pots is either, but I'm big enough for them with 4, 5 to 6 sandals, you're good. Oh, and towards the end of that level, if you looked in the bottom right corner, you could see that the prince was huffing. That meant that I boosted too frequently. If you boost too often, you run out of energy, and your overall movement speed decreases, and you can't boost anymore, which is why the end of that level was a little bit slower.
Mom.
This next level starts off with a very
Sorry.
cool trick where I'm going to try to bounce off of this table on top of a pile of ping pong balls and kind of grow in size much larger than you would in a casual playthrough.
Yeah, I had no idea that there was an energy system, so to speak, in this game because it goes pretty much like it's not. There's no meter or anything like that.
Yeah, it's invisible, and until recently we had kind of only guessed at the exact mechanics of it, and our guesses were pretty much spot on, but I think Grass recently looked into the code of the game to see how exactly it worked. And basically there's an invisible meter that goes down every time you're charging a boost or boosting. I got the jump right there.
Nice.
And it just regenerates while you're not boosting. It's really that simple. If you ever hit 0, then you huff. Oh, shoot. Okay, so I fell into the garden there. A little bit blind there when you're trying to get these flower petals. Or I guess they're just full flowers, huh? Just over this table, and there's a couple birds that you grab off of the lamppost that's sitting on top of the table. We used to do the kitchen the other way around. We kind of do it backwards. Cycle around this way instead. A little bit faster. I want to be 38.5 here, at least for the slippers. That's kind of the size I have in mind. Pick up some of these shoes, get closer to 50. At 50 you get a little swirl and a cutscene. You get these periodically when you get big enough as the level is loading in more objects. A lot of times cycles are going to be dependent on when the objects were loaded in, since they're not always there from the start of the level too. This level has one of, I think, the most popular songs, and unfortunately, if you're actually playing this level well, you never hear the chorus, but I slowed down a little bit, totally on purpose, so that everybody could hear the song. At the start of the next level, Make a Star 5, the main thing I'm trying to do is catch up with this cycle of yellow crabs that are wandering around. Getting them makes it a lot easier to catch one of the first bottlenecks of the level, and you'll see them when they show up. But basically, from the very start of the level, I'm trying to keep up with this cycle that's, 40 seconds in. I'll point them out when I get there. You want to be 12.0 for these cherries. And then the next thing I'm going to care about is being 18.0 for cups later. You reboost at the edge of that cliff, and you keep a lot more speed on the launch. Here are the yellow crabs, and I am easily big enough for them. They're running the other way, but don't worry, I'm going to catch up to them. Getting just a couple of them is enough to easily get me to 27.0. Actually, I think it's 26.9 for these bottles of soy sauce. Ooh. So did you see, they were kind of snuck by there, but there are these little green elephant teacups that are not always there that could have been in my way. It's one of those cycles that starts at a random position when you start the level. So there's kind of two different routes for Make a Star 5. There's a newer one that I am less familiar with as an older player of this game that I've been learning, where basically you pick up more stuff in this market that I'm coming up on to make sure that you are big enough to pick up these lamps that are underneath a bridge that you go under in either route. I might have some trouble being big enough for them, given that I had to avoid some of the randomly pathing NPCs in the market right just now. Okay, I think I'll still be fine. So you pick up a little bit of extra stuff, those shopping baskets, before leaving the market. And that should allow me, as I cross this river, to be big enough to pick up these lamps. Instead of going up onto the stadium, or the stage over on the right there, I'm just going to cut straight across. It also helps because getting past those lamps is kind of a real pain. You can crash into them multiple times before they actually let you underneath that bridge. But that's Make a Star 5. It's so hard to talk about this game. I have to pick things to talk about, and by the time I'm done explaining them, I'm past like 40 other things I could have talked about, which is why I think tomorrow being able to explain the game more slowly will definitely help for people who are interested in picking up this game. So generally in this game, each level gets a little bit longer. Make a Star 6 is the exception, where Make a Star 5 is about a 2-minute level, and this one goes back to being shorter than 4, or around the same length as 4, where it's only a minute, a little over a minute. I think that's just because the layout of the level is such that you can just basically be constantly boosting. It's a very quick level movement-wise. There's also a cycle with these bushes that are popping up around the clock face in the center of this level. And once again, it's one of those cycles that starts in a random position. So depending on where they are in their cycle when I get here, I will be able to pick up bushes, or I'll have to wait. That was actually a pretty good one. I didn't get a ton of bushes, but I got enough pretty much immediately when I got there. I'm going to be a little bit small here, so I don't think I can take the new route. I'm just going to be going to the left here. There's a newer route where you go to the right, you get a bunch larger before heading into town. Instead, I'm just going to grab some extra stuff here before heading to the line of cows in the gas station. There is a new ending, though, that still works regardless, where instead of, we used to head kind of over to my left right now. Instead, we go this way. Oh, never mind, biker dude's in the way. Ugh, I'm a little bit slow here. And we just head kind of in a big arc around, grab these vending machines, I think? And the level ends right here instead. I was a little bit slow. So I didn't really demonstrate how that route is so much faster. 133 is awfully slow for 6, but still, like I said, faster than 5. Here's where I'm going to play Make a Bear. So before you can unlock 7, you have to have played at least one constellation. The game wants to make sure that you're having some fun with the optional levels. But we're going to have the minimal amount of fun. Bear is by far the fastest level, because as Alpha was alluding to, you don't need to get the biggest bear to complete the level. You just get any bear. So we're just going to grab the first bear that we can see. Which is right there. All right, we're done. I believe this gets you a game time of 1 second on the level, which is the fastest it can be completed. If I boosted really slowly, it might have been a 2. No, it was a 1. So that's it for Bear. The big thing to pay attention to in 7 is a swan boat that is going around the upper town area where a lot of the level takes place. You kind of have to be aware of the cycle of the entire level, because the swan boat will be a menace to us when we're small, and later on we'll want to pick it up. When objects are much larger than you in this game, they can send you flying with a lot of speed when they crash into you. So you really want to be careful around the swan boat. This old man on the pier is pathing randomly, so you have to pay a little attention when you're cleaning up kettles and buckets to where he is. So there's the swan boat right there. He's going to be coming right back around this block, so when I boost through these bikes, I'm going to go up on the wall like this, so he doesn't smack me. Should be passing right behind me. Oh, there's also other cycles like this sumo guy, though, that you have to pay attention to. Just saw the swan boat pass by. It's gonna be a little bit tight getting through here before it smacks me. It's gonna go over to the side early. So I didn't get these hedges yet. Now I got them. Getting 3.0 when you're up in the town is a little bit better because you get these squirrels that make you lose all your speed. And this means that when I boost here, I get to keep this boost's momentum. Whoa, this is really fast. Sorry, that was way faster than you normally have for that speed. But if you were to get 3.0 in the middle of that boost, you would just be halted and you'd have to reboost. It's much better to keep your speed from the top of the hill. I quickly clean up the park, grab everything we need. There are these boulders that you can't really see that are hiding behind those trees. I think I missed one of them. Oh, I missed the swan boat. Just like vaulted over it somehow. I guess I'm not gonna pick it up. It's fine, can end the level without it. Just pick up this, a little bit small. Not sub 2, missed the sub 2, sad. So now we've completed 8 out of 11 levels, if you include Bear as a level, and we're about halfway done, because the last 3 levels are much, much longer than 1 to 7. Altogether, they make up half of the game, and are much more challenging to be consistent at, thanks to their length. Starting with 8, which is my favorite level in the game, both for its song and just for all the movement and stuff that takes place in it. Early on, my goal here is to make it to 14.0, the jars of jam. So I want to make sure you don't miss too many strawberries or batteries. This should be fine. Oh, there we go. There's a dog coming up that's going to be walking down a hallway that we need to pass through. Don't think I'm going fast enough to get there before he's blocking the path. I'll just have to go to his side. Oh, I'm just barely too small for these. I think I lost something when I bonked into the ledge. Need to be 29.0 for the rakes. There's the dog. Just passing on the side. So here you've got the 3 Little Pigs vignette. And their brick house, straw house, and wood house. There's all kinds of stuff like that throughout this game if you pay attention to the objects that are strewn about. We used to turn around here and then go back the way we came, but now we just boost underneath that bike. And I think it's about the same time-wise, but it helps you be a lot larger going down the hill for sure. which is helpful because it makes it a lot easier to be big enough to immediately pick up these lucky cat dolls like that. Going into this market, you're kind of just gambling on the kid and grandpa not being in your way, because they are randomly walking around this place constantly. They are kind of perfectly in my way right now. Getting out of there. Yeah, you kind of just come flying around the corner without being able to see exactly where they are and have to adjust depending on where exactly they are. There's an object coming up that we are too small to pick up, but because it's combined with an object that we are big enough to pick up, we're able to pick up the whole thing if we touch the right part of it. So right here, these two guys carrying this woman on a chair. You just grab the middle and pick up the whole thing. There's a few objects like that in the game, but I think that's the most notable one in the speedrun. Can't see. A little bit blind. One of the reasons that 8 is my favorite level is that towards the end, you start gaining so much size in single boosts that you keep your speed in a really cool way. So if it goes smoothly, the last chunk of the level can be really fast. You grow from something like 5.5 meters all the way to the goal size of 12 in pretty much one fluid motion, ideally. Right here. Oh, I almost had it, but this ledge got me. Really got me. But yeah, ideally you hop up that ledge as well, and then you just finish your run for town. Nine is my least favorite level. Grass will tell you otherwise, but a lot of people will agree with me. It's got a lot of really weird geometries and a lot of randomly pathed NPCs walking around the start of the level who can get in your way. So it's very challenging and sometimes in a way that's not fun, but it's still a good level. It's just, you know, on my scale of Katamari levels I enjoy, it's not at the top. Oh, there's random guy number 1. That bear wanders around these trophies. Gotta look out for him. This chicken's on a cycle, not random. These guys are random though. Penguin's random. Oh, well, gosh, I didn't think he was gonna turn towards me. Tried to get around him. Luckily, the new route for this game gets rid of for this level, gets rid of some of the random elements where we used to pick up those dogs that we passed by at the start. But instead we get big enough for the penguins in a slightly different way. From here on, they're synced up. We're just up to that bit. There's a newer route. So you want to spin so that you can get the benches. When you spin, your hitbox compacts itself a little bit so you can get closer to the edges of things. And you become round, whereas if you look at my ball right now, it is very clearly not round. It's very spiked with lots of logs sticking out. Overall, that was a pretty smooth part, though. No complaints there. Coming up, we're going to have to climb a wall and clip through the top of the gas station. There's another little funky bit of geometry in this game. When you climb up walls, you can kind of pop through things. So if I want to get as close to this wall as I can. I'm just going to pop right up through this gas station like that. A little bit of a shortcut. That part can be pretty finicky. You can get stuck and bonk quite a bit. But that went smoothly. Once we get the palm trees, we're done here and we go back down to Lower Town for a little bit. Then we want to get the carports. And if you're wondering about the names of objects, if you look in the lower left corner, you'll see for a very brief instant the name of things as I pick them up. Which might help you know what I'm talking about. It's not obvious. The carports were kind of the overhang looking things that I picked up. A lot of people really like once you get big enough to pick up the trees because of how they spread themselves around the ball very evenly. It's a very satisfying moment in the game casually when you've come from picking up small animals and thumb pins to picking up trees and buildings. Oh, a little stuck here. Experiencing a little bit of Make a Star 9 right now. Goal here is to be around 2253, I believe, which lets me get these boats. A little bit of exercise on that boost. Not completely necessary, but it helps. I'm going to try to jump here. It didn't work out. You can get air off of that ledge, such that you just launch yourselves up to the end of the level here. Instead, I'm going to vault with those signs. A little bit slower. That's the end of Make a Star 9. 336 is not bad. Faster than my 8 time, which is surprising. I don't know if that means my 8 was bad or my 9 was good. They are very similarly length levels, but I would say 9 is more challenging to be fast at. Next up is the last level in the game, and by far the longest, Make the Moon. It's about a minute longer than 8 and 9. So whereas those levels are like 3 to 4 minutes, this one's more like 4 to 5, sometimes longer than 5. Casually, they give you, I think, 25 minutes to complete the level, but speedrun's a little bit faster because, you know, mostly because you just know where you're going. I would say that's the biggest thing that saves time over a casual playthrough of this game is not all the boosts that I'm doing, but just knowing where you're going and the routing is just very powerful. Well, need these. Whoa! Squeezing between these trees can be kind of tricky. Need to be around 293 for these ducks, and that gets you enough size to get to the swirl. Now I want to be around 338 for the hedges, which I don't think I'm going to be, so I'm going to take an alternate route and go up this way instead. And go around the town this way. Probably doesn't make much sense for me to call it an alternate route, considering I didn't show the normal route as well, but it's a little bit different. Normally you just pick up the flower beds and head straight over to where that girl statue was. Train is somewhere around here. Yeah, here's the train. So the next part of the level is all about the train cycle. This train is going to be circling this upper part of town. And it's kind of like the swan boat. We want to avoid it until we're big enough to pick it up. It's going to cut us off here, so we'll have to wait for a moment. We're heading down to the beach area. We're not actually going to the beach, we're just picking up the signs. Ooh, little ball. And we're going to pass up the train again. Now our goal is to quickly get big enough to pick up the train before it catches up to where we are. Oh, actually, I'm almost big enough to not need the train. If you can get enough of these parking circles, you can just skip the train. But when the train is already there, it's not worth trying to skip it. But if you are far ahead of the train cycle, that's also an option. get these buildings. Off on the top there. I think I need this totem pole. Might be wrong. I'm just gonna grab it before I grab the smokestack, just in case. Flip. Flipping in this game, for those who haven't played it, is done by pushing on both of the sticks at the same time. It's an input that's both easy to do accidentally and sometimes hard to do when you want to do it. If you're kind of just pushing too hard on the sticks while you're trying to turn at a sharp angle, it's pretty easy to accidentally flip.
I was gonna say, the first time I played this game was the reroll version on the Switch, and I'm pretty sure this single-handedly destroyed my Joy-Cons.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Particularly on
same.
Switch Joy-Cons. Sony DualShock 2, which I'm playing, I think holds up a little bit better than the Joy-Cons.
It holds up better than most controllers these days.
Yeah, I personally, I think I'd estimate that I've played the PS2 version of this game somewhere around 700 hours or so. I've only broken one controller over that amount of time. What happened is one of the sticks started freely twisting in place, so it's kind of unusable.
Huh.
But that's it. Everything. I'm only on my second controller here. Ooh, missed a little bit of stuff there. Maybe a little bit small. Oh, I'm so small that I can squeeze through. There's a bigger building there that we want to be. I think it's somewhere around 91 for. Unfortunately, I'm not the best resource to ask in the Katamari community for exact sizes of things, since I do a lot of it more by feel. Like, I feel like I'm going to be big enough for this thing. I played the game enough. But it is definitely a better idea to know the exact size that you need to be. There we go. At the last bit of level, where we do a lot of boosting through the ocean, which really shows off how much faster it is to snake than to not. Oh, just crashed into that. That's something that can happen very commonly in this game. Little tiny ledges that you expect to just cruise on by, make you lose all your speed. Kept my speed through the cutscene there somehow, so I'm just going to reboost, which is something I don't normally do, so we'll see how that works out in terms of the shape that I am now in. Might be a little bit awkward getting these islands. Oh, it looks like I'm fine. Looks like this is unfortunately a fairly slow moon, but that's time.
Nice.
Yo, GG.
Thank you. It's very hard to talk about this game while playing it, so I think the showcase tomorrow will be very helpful in terms of talking more about what I'm thinking about in specific parts of this game. I can show off one thing real quick, though. I think this is a great spot to show it, the difference between snaking and not snaking in this game. So I'm going to do a boost, and then I'm going to let go of the sticks. You'll see how I kind of lose my speed pretty much immediately. If I boost and then I just turn left, keep so much more speed, pretty much indefinitely. Even if I'm huffing, as long as I'm still snaking, I'm going to maintain my speed.
Okay, I see that.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, it's like I may not have noticed that, but it feels like that's something that I felt, but just didn't realize that that was even a mechanic.
Yeah. It's what makes it so hard to actually reliably get the objects that you want to pick up. If you're not boosting at all, it's not too hard to just get everything that you want, but because you're constantly trying to snake back and forth, it makes it very challenging to get the exact things that you need to be big enough in the route. So it's balancing boosting where you can with getting the objects that you need. That makes this game very interesting to play.
Yeah, honestly, thank you for doing that run, and I'm really looking forward to the community spotlight tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you are one of the people who are interested in learning this run, whether it's to participate in speed seasons or whether it's because you just want to learn the speed run for the heck of it, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, the community spotlight. Real Coon hosts it. Sunker here will be giving a full tutorial, being able to go more in depth in the game as an extension of today's show. So if you've ever wanted to learn more about speedrunning the game, maybe you either want to run it yourself to compete in the race on April 25th, which is when this race is happening for Speed Seasons, April 25th. Write that down. Or maybe you just want to like chill out to some more Katamari music, because Katamari music is great. You should definitely make sure you check that out. So and I think Alpha, you're gonna be there.
Yeah, I'll be there to ask questions, make sure that, you know, I'm not completely clueless when the game needs to be commentated. But there's a lot going on, a lot of fun stuff. This game is very fun, and yeah, if you just wanted to join the race and just play the game casually, that's worth it, because it's got one of the best soundtracks in any game I think I've ever played. So,
oh yeah,
just enjoy the music.
For someone new learning this game, I've probably made it maybe sound daunting with all of the routing stuff that you need to know, but this game is much more forgiving than a lot of new speedruns. A mistake in this game isn't going to cost you a minute to some death where you have to redo a whole section of a level. It's a mistake in this game is going to cost you a couple seconds while you lose your speed. And you'll make a lot of them that add up, but it doesn't feel punishing to learn, and I think that makes it a very rewarding learning experience.
Yeah, that's probably like a good sign of a good speed game for especially newer runners as well. Like, you want to feel good while playing the game, and in some cases when you pick up a new speed game, you have kind of like this honeymoon phase where you're just constantly PBing, and then you hit a wall and you're like, why aren't I PBing anymore? And then you realize that like certain tricks, like if you're not consistent at them, you start losing like massive amounts of time. Smaller, less punishing mistakes, and just learning to be consistent with the movement of a game tends to be a more rewarding speed game in the long haul. So like, easy to pick up, high skill ceilings are usually my jam.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
And it's also really nice to know that like this game is very heavily based on its physics from what I've seen from this run, rather than relying on like contrary to LADX, where Link's Awakening is full of glitches to be able to progress very, very quickly. In addition to really good movement, this game is very, very focused on movement.
Yeah, it's not very trick heavy. There's a couple of moments that you could maybe qualify as tricks, like the jump in 4 and clipping through the gas station on 9, but really they're just extensions of the general movement in this game.
Right. But thank you very much for being on for today, and for being on tomorrow, and for joining us in a couple of weeks for the commentary for the race as well, because I'm looking forward to hearing more from you, because you definitely know what you're talking about, and I'm really glad that we have you on board.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm really excited to see how people do in the race in a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, and people have been working really hard every game that we've revealed so far. So Alpha's picked a good set of games, I think.
I have picked definitely a set of games. I will leave it there. We'll let the racers be mad at someone if one of those games isn't any good.
I know what that means. I can't say what that means, but you'll know what that means eventually too. That said, any closing words from the two of you before we go into a break, and before our, like, we have about an hour or so before our next show, but we're gonna take a break until then.
I'll say that if you're interested in learning this game, like I said, there's never been a better time for picking it up with all of the people who have learned it since Reroll's release. If you join the Katamari Discord, you'll be able to ask any questions you have about the game, and there's lots of people who would be happy to answer you. I think there's a link somewhere in speedrun.com. I also have one in my info section on my Twitch.
Alpha, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, this game is good. You know, a little different. You know, last game all about jumping. This game, there's like one jump, maybe. you're still green though, so basically the same game. So have fun with it, enjoy the music, and remember, if you want to get involved in this event, you got to join now, because you got to play 4 games. If you haven't played any, it's your last chance to be able to qualify for playoffs. You can still join all the races and win some Steam games that I give out to the winner of each race. But and this is a good game to join on. It's a very, very fun game, and even just playing it casually, it's it's definitely a very fun experience. Would recommend. And just check out speedseasons.com for all that information.
Oh yeah. So that said, I have a couple of announcements before we end. As a reminder, as I've said multiple times this show, SGDQ 2021 online is July 4th to the 11th. The submissions for runs are open until the end of tonight. So 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, April 11th. Today, get your submissions in if you want to be able to be a part, or like try to, if you're interested in being a part of SGDQ 2021 from the comfort of your own home. That said, if you are interested in volunteering, whether it's hosting or doing donations or anything like tech checks, stuff like that, if you want to help out with the production of SGDQ 2021 online, those submissions for volunteers opened on the 9th of April. They're open until the 23rd. So definitely go to gamesdonequick.com for more information on both game submissions and volunteer applications. And tune in later today at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern. Games Done Classic with Matt Lackey is it's a podcast, and it's going over classic GDQ moments. And this time they're going to be covering the Awful Block, which was referenced a lot this past week since April Fool's started. That was kind of a theme a lot of the shows decided to go with. I decided to do that with Never Before Seen this past Wednesday. That show was a riot. If you want to look for something to watch between now and 4 p.m., go watch the VOD of Never Before Seen. I'm gonna self-plug my show because it's great. Or you can maybe catch up on past Speed Season 3 races. You can also do that. The Doom race was great. The SMB2 race was great. Or if you missed the LADX race, rewind the stream a little bit. You'll find that. That was a very good race too. But that said, my name is Amber Cypher, and this has been Speed Seasons 3. Thank you all for watching, and stick around for Games Done Classic.